Ariana Chopra just wanted to celebrate her promotion at an upscale restaurant, but when her reservation is cancelled and she's mocked by the staff, she faces a choice: stay silent or fight back against discrimination. What will she do? Ariana Chopra stood behind the register at the supermarket, her fingers deftly scanning items while her mind wandered to the evening ahead. At 29, she had spent countless hours working, saving every dollar she could to treat herself to a dinner at the upscale restaurant she had always dreamed of visiting. Today was special. It was a celebration of her recent promotion, a milestone she had worked tirelessly to achieve. She had even splurged on a modest yet elegant dress, its soft fabric hugging her frame just right, and adorned herself with simple jewelry that reflected her understated style. With her tote bag slung over her shoulder, she felt a mix of excitement and apprehension as she approached the restaurant. As she stepped inside, the ambience enveloped her. Crystal chandeliers hung from the ceiling, casting a warm glow over the lavish decor, while floral arrangements added a touch of elegance. But the moment she approached the check-in counter, her heart sank. Derek, the host, looked her up and down with a smirk that made her stomach churn. "Your reservation has been cancelled," he announced, his tone dripping with disdain. "Scheduling conflict." Before Ariana could gather her thoughts, he continued, loudly mocking her appearance as if she were some sort of spectacle. The laughter of other patrons echoed in her ears, each snicker a sharp reminder of her humiliation. Ariana's cheeks flushed with heat, her heart racing as she felt the weight of judgment around her. She wanted to vanish, to escape the piercing gazes that scrutinized her every move. In that moment, she felt small and exposed, the celebration she had looked forward to slipping away like sand through her fingers. Other patrons noticed the incident, their expressions a mix of amusement and disbelief. Some smirked, while others whispered among themselves, their curious eyes lingering on Ariana as she stood there, rooted to the spot. The mockery of Derek echoed in her mind, amplifying her embarrassment. She felt like a fish out of water, gasping for air in an atmosphere so foreign and hostile. Each snicker and sideways glance was another blow, and her heart ached with the weight of their judgment. Crushed and heartbroken, Ariana quietly exited the restaurant, the heavy wooden door closing behind her with a finality that felt like a punch to her gut. Outside, she leaned against the cool brick wall, her cheeks burning with shame. The bustling sounds of the street seemed to fade away as she sank onto a nearby bench, her thoughts spiraling into a vortex of despair. She stared into the distance, her mind drifting back to the long hours she'd spent at the supermarket. Memories flooded her, the endless shifts, the meals she had skipped to save money, the dreams of a life filled with more than just survival. This dinner had been her beacon of hope, a moment to celebrate not just her promotion but her journey, a journey marked by resilience and grit. Ariana remembered the day she received her promotion. The excitement that had coursed through her veins, the sense of validation that came from her hard work finally paying off. She had imagined this dinner to be a turning point, a celebration of her achievements and a glimpse into the future she wanted to build. She had always yearned to experience the upscale dining culture, to sit among those who effortlessly fit into the world of luxury. But now, with the mockery of Derek fresh in her mind, all she felt was the stark contrast between her aspirations and the harsh reality of her experience. The weight of her dreams felt heavier than ever. As she sat on that bench, the world around her continued to move, people walking by, living their lives, while she felt frozen in time. The laughter from the restaurant still echoed in her ears, mingling with the sounds of the city. It was a cruel reminder that she had just been humiliated in front of strangers who would never understand the sacrifices she had made to reach this point. The tears threatened to spill over, but she blinked them back, refusing to let the humiliation consume her. Ariana took a deep breath, reminding herself of the strength she had within her. It was time to reclaim that strength, to transform her anger into something meaningful. As she sat there, a flicker of determination ignited within her. She would not let this moment define her. This was not just an isolated incident, it was part of a larger pattern of discrimination that needed to be addressed. She thought of all the others who had experienced similar humiliations, those who had been dismissed or belittled simply because they didn't fit into the narrow mold that establishments like this restaurant seemed to uphold. Ariana pulled out her phone, her fingers flying over the screen as she typed out her feelings. She contemplated sharing her experience on social media, not just for herself but for anyone who had ever felt marginalized or disrespected in a similar way. But then an idea struck her, a more powerful way to bring attention to the restaurant's behavior. If she could expose the discriminatory practices, perhaps she could incite change. After what felt like hours, she stood up from the bench, her heart pounding with newfound resolve. She would document her experience and reach out to someone who could help amplify her voice, a local journalist known for covering social justice issues. This was her chance to turn her humiliation into a catalyst for change. As she walked away from the restaurant, she overheard two staff members discussing health violations that the establishment was allegedly operating under. Their words ignited her sense of justice, and she knew she had to take action. It was no longer just about her experience, it was about holding people accountable for their actions. Ariana pulled out her phone again, her heart racing. She recorded a quick video, detailing her experience and the overheard conversation about safety violations. It was time to shine a light on the truth, to show that discrimination and negligence could no longer be tolerated. With determination coursing through her, she began drafting an email to the journalist. The words flowed easily as she poured out her heart, detailing everything that had happened and the injustices she had witnessed. She pressed send, feeling a mix of anxiety and hope. It was a small step, but it was a step towards something bigger. Ariana walked home, her mind racing with possibilities. The humiliation she had felt just hours before began to transform into a sense of purpose. She was ready to take a stand, not just for herself, but for anyone who had ever been made to feel less than they were. The fight was just beginning, and she was determined to see it through. Ariana took a deep breath as she stepped out into the bustling street, the cool evening air washing over her. She could feel the remnants of humiliation still clinging to her, but she was resolved not to let that define her. With each step away from the restaurant, she felt a flicker of determination igniting within her. This wasn't the end, it was the beginning of something new, a chance to transform her anger into action. As she walked, her eyes caught sight of a side entrance to the restaurant. It was a fire exit, padlocked shut, and a wave of concern washed over her. She hesitated for a moment, a gnawing worry about safety nagging at her. What if there was an emergency? What if someone needed to escape quickly? The thought sent a shiver down her spine, and, fueled by her sense of justice, she pulled out her phone to document the violation. Ariana snapped a photo of the padlocked door, her heart racing as she imagined the implications. She made a mental note to notify the fire department. This was more than just about her experience, it was about ensuring that no one else faced such a dangerous situation. As she walked away, her mind was still spinning from the earlier incident when she overheard two staff members discussing how the restaurant lacked the necessary health certifications. Their words hit her like a bolt of lightning, igniting her sense of justice even further. She couldn't believe what she was hearing. This establishment, which prided itself on luxury, was operating without proper safety measures. The anger that had started as a small ember within her grew into a roaring flame. She knew she had to act, and act quickly. With renewed determination, she decided to email a local journalist known for covering stories about social justice. As she walked home, she could feel the excitement building inside her. This was her chance to make a difference, to reveal the truth about the restaurant's discriminatory practices and safety violations. She envisioned the article that might come from her experience, the conversations it could spark, and the awareness it could raise. Upon arriving home, Ariana wasted no time. She sat down at her cluttered kitchen table, the warm glow of her lamp illuminating the pages of her notepad. She began to write, her thoughts flowing freely. She detailed her experience at the restaurant, the mockery she faced, and the safety issues she had discovered. Her fingers flew over the keyboard as she poured her heart into the email, expressing not just her anger but her hope for change. After hitting send, Ariana leaned back in her chair, her heart pounding. She felt a mix of anxiety and exhilaration. She had taken a step, albeit a small one, toward reclaiming her dignity and shining a light on the injustices faced by people like her. The thought of others who had endured similar humiliations spurred her on, and she hoped that her story could inspire them to speak up as well. As the evening turned into night, she couldn't help but feel a sense of empowerment bubbling within her. This was not just about her, it was about a collective struggle against discrimination and neglect. She was ready to be a voice for those who felt voiceless, and the fire within her burned brighter than ever. Days passed, and Ariana found herself constantly checking her email, her anticipation growing with each moment. She had shared her story with the journalist, and now she waited, hoping it would make an impact. During those days, she noticed a shift in herself. The humiliation she had felt at the restaurant was slowly being replaced by a sense of purpose. She walked with her head held high, her confidence growing as more time passed. One afternoon, while she was at work, her phone buzzed with a notification. It was an email from the journalist, and her heart raced as she opened it. The message was brief but filled with gratitude. The journalist thanked her for her courage and assured her that her story would be featured in an article. Ariana's heart soared at the thought of her experience being shared with the world. As the article neared publication, she began to receive messages from friends and even acquaintances. They expressed their support and shared similar stories of their own experiences with discrimination. Each message was like a balm to her wounded pride, reminding her that she was not alone in this fight. The solidarity she felt was invigorating, and she realized that her actions had sparked a movement, one that was bigger than her individual struggle. When the article finally went live, it quickly went viral. The online community erupted in outrage, with countless commenters sharing their own humiliating experiences at upscale establishments and expressing their support for Ariana. The restaurant, facing public backlash, scrambled to do damage control. They issued a vague apology while denying any wrongdoing, but the damage had been done. Authorities soon began to investigate the restaurant, uncovering serious issues related to safety violations and a lack of proper permits. The news surrounding the establishment became a hot topic of conversation, with many advocating for changes in how such businesses operated. Suddenly, the power of one voice had transformed into a chorus demanding accountability. Ariana learned that Derek, the host who had mocked her, was suspended pending further investigation. She felt a mix of satisfaction and disbelief. The very person who had made her feel less than human was now facing consequences for his actions. It was a small victory, but it felt monumental. Empowered by the support of her community, Ariana continued to advocate for change. She attended rallies and shared her story with others who had faced similar experiences. The movement she had unwittingly started began to grow, and she realized she was no longer just a victim of humiliation, she was a catalyst for change. She had reclaimed her dignity, not just for herself, but for others, and she stood firm in her belief that everyone deserved respect, regardless of their background. As she navigated through this new chapter of her life, she felt a sense of purpose that had been missing before. She was ready to continue fighting for justice, and she knew that her journey was far from over. Ariana's story rapidly gained traction after the journalist published an article detailing both the discriminatory practices and safety violations at the restaurant. The piece went viral, igniting public outrage that reverberated across social media platforms. Comments flooded in from people sharing their own experiences of humiliation and discrimination at upscale establishments, expressing solidarity with Ariana. Each message felt like a small victory, affirming that she was not alone in her struggle, and that her voice mattered. The restaurant, caught off guard by the backlash, attempted to do damage control. They issued a vague apology, denying any wrongdoing while desperately trying to paint a picture of their commitment to inclusivity and safety. But their efforts fell flat as the public remained unconvinced. Authorities began to take notice. Investigations unveiled serious problems within the establishment, including fines for safety violations and a lack of necessary permits. The revelations were a testament to the negligence that Ariana had stumbled upon that fateful evening. In the midst of it all, Derek, the host whose mockery had stung Ariana so deeply, faced the consequences of his actions. He was suspended pending further investigation, and the restaurant publicly condemned his behavior, a move that felt like a small triumph for Ariana. She could hardly believe that the man who had belittled her was now facing scrutiny for his actions, a symbolic shift in the narrative that had once made her feel so powerless. As the days turned into weeks, the outpouring of support from her community continued to grow. People reached out to her, sharing their gratitude for her bravery. Each message was a reminder of the power of one voice to inspire change, and Ariana felt a sense of empowerment that she had never experienced before. She had transformed her anger into action, and in doing so, she had become a beacon of hope for others who had faced similar experiences. With each passing day, Ariana found herself becoming more engaged in the movement she had inadvertently sparked. She attended community meetings, engaged in discussions about inclusivity, and shared her story with anyone who would listen. The sense of purpose she felt was invigorating, and she realized that her fight for justice was not just a personal journey, it was a collective one. She was part of something larger than herself, a movement that aimed to dismantle discrimination and foster equality. The restaurant's reputation suffered significantly, and the community began to hold them accountable for their actions. Ariana watched as policies were revised, and training for staff was implemented to ensure that no one else would experience the kind of humiliation she had endured. The changes felt like a breath of fresh air, a step toward a more inclusive dining culture where everyone would feel welcome, regardless of their background. Overwhelmed by the support and the positive changes unfolding around her, Ariana took a moment to reflect on her journey. She realized that what had started as a painful experience had transformed into a catalyst for change. Her actions had sparked a movement, and she had reclaimed her dignity in the process. The sense of pride she felt was palpable. She had turned her humiliation into a powerful force for good. As she navigated through this new chapter in her life, she embraced her role as an advocate for change and a voice for those who had been marginalized. She knew that the fight for equality was ongoing, but she felt equipped to face whatever challenges lay ahead. With each story she shared, she inspired others to stand up for themselves and demand the respect they deserved. Weeks later, Ariana returned to her normal life as a cashier, but she walked with newfound confidence, her head held high. No longer did she carry the weight of humiliation. Instead, she felt empowered by her experiences and the changes they had initiated. She received a heartfelt message from the journalist who had covered her story, thanking her for her courage and letting her know how many lives she had touched with her narrative. The impact of her actions was far-reaching, and she felt a sense of fulfillment in knowing that she had made a difference. The restaurant eventually reached out to apologize, but Ariana chose to ignore it. Instead, she focused on the positive impact she had made and the community that had rallied around her. A moment of quiet validation washed over her when she walked past the restaurant one afternoon. The establishment now displayed a new sign that read, "Revised Policies, Commitment to Inclusivity and Safety." It was a small victory, but it felt monumental to Ariana. As she sat at a small cafe one sunny afternoon, sipping tea surrounded by friends, she couldn't help but smile. Laughter bubbled around her as they shared stories, and in that moment, she realized that while she may not have status or wealth, she possessed something far more valuable: courage, strength, and the ability to inspire change. That was more than enough. Weeks later, Ariana returned to her normal life as a cashier, but she walked with newfound confidence, her head held high. The shame that once weighed her down had been lifted, replaced by a sense of purpose and belonging. Each day felt different. She no longer felt like an outsider in her own skin. Instead, she embraced her identity with pride, knowing that her voice had the power to create ripples of change. One day, while working her shift, her phone buzzed with a notification. A message from the journalist who had covered her story lit up the screen. "Thank you for your courage," it read. "Your story has touched so many lives. Keep shining your light." Ariana felt a warmth spread through her chest as she read the words. She had never imagined that sharing her experience could resonate so deeply with others. This message reaffirmed her belief that she had made a difference, that the humiliation she endured had transformed into something powerful. As she continued her work, the restaurant that had once brought her so much distress reached out to her with an apology. They wanted to make amends, to show that they had learned from their mistakes. But Ariana chose to ignore their message. She realized that her focus should remain on the positive impact she had made rather than on the restaurant's attempts at damage control. There was a sense of liberation in that decision. She was not defined by their acknowledgement of her pain. Instead, she was defined by her courage to stand up against it. One afternoon, while strolling past the restaurant, Ariana noticed a new sign prominently displayed in the window. Revised policies, commitment to inclusivity and safety. Her heart swelled with pride as she recognized the significance of that moment. The establishment was taking steps to ensure that others would not experience the same humiliation she had. It was a small victory, but it signified a much larger shift in the culture she had fought so hard to change. Later that week, Ariana found herself sitting at a small cafe, sipping tea with her friends. The sun streamed through the window, illuminating their laughter and camaraderie. As they shared stories and jokes, she felt a profound sense of belonging. In this moment, surrounded by those who uplifted her, she realized that while she may not have status or wealth, she possessed something far more valuable: courage, strength, and the ability to inspire change. Her friends celebrated her resilience, recounting their own stories of struggles and triumphs. They spoke of the importance of standing together, of lifting each other up in the face of adversity. Ariana felt a sense of kinship with them, a bond forged through shared experiences and the collective fight for dignity and respect. It was a reminder that they were not alone in their struggles, they were part of a larger community advocating for change. As the afternoon faded into evening, Ariana looked around at her friends, their faces glowing with joy and warmth. She felt a wave of gratitude wash over her. They had supported her through her journey, and now, she was ready to support them in theirs. She knew that the fight for equality extended beyond her own experience and that together, they could create a more inclusive world. In the weeks that followed, Ariana became more involved in community initiatives focused on inclusivity and social justice. She attended meetings, shared her story, and encouraged others to speak out against discrimination. The movement she had inadvertently sparked continued to grow, and she felt invigorated by the collective strength of those around her. Ariana recognized that her experiences, both painful and empowering, had shaped her into the person she was becoming. She was no longer just a cashier at a supermarket, she was an advocate, a voice for those who had faced similar struggles. Each day brought new challenges, but she faced them with the knowledge that change was possible. In one of her community meetings, she stood before a group of people, her heart racing but her resolve unwavering. "We all deserve to be treated with respect," she began, her voice steady. "Our backgrounds should not define our worth. Let's work together to ensure that no one feels the humiliation I felt that night." The room erupted in applause, and she felt a surge of energy, fueled by the support of her community. As she continued to inspire others, Ariana realized that change often begins with a single voice, and she was proud to be that voice. Her journey had come full circle, transforming her pain into a purpose that extended far beyond herself. She was reminded that while the road ahead might still hold challenges, she was equipped with the strength of her experiences and the unwavering support of those around her. Ariana smiled as she sat back in her chair, surrounded by friends and community members who believed in her mission. She knew that together, they could foster a world where dignity and respect were afforded to everyone, regardless of their background. And in that moment, she felt more than enough. she felt empowered, driven, and ready to continue her journey toward change.